Welcome back to another episode of Philosophy of Chillin. I'm your host, Dylan the Connect. And, today's conversation is just like any other. Hard hitting and impacting, hopefully. But it's that way to me because it's something that I'm working through actively. And I embrace it. Um, well, the topic of today and what I wanted to discuss is how to progress through our different stages of development and specifically how to get through the biggest obstacle that one can really encounter, and that is you. You internally can be your biggest enemy, and I know for myself that that is that can be true for me. And it has definitely been a journey trying to allow that side of myself to release its control over me, and it's still a work in progress every single day. But I'm here to say that I will get through it. I have no doubt about it, but I'm just trying to be consistent until the day finally comes where I can feel the difference. And I say all of this to introduce the topic of self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is so real, and it's stemmed in the experiences that have been deemed in alignment with past traumas that, maybe we haven't had any control over in our life, but generationally has been passed down to us. Or it could even be stemming from the experiences that came across our path of development here on Earth at this time frame. And those defense mechanisms that can form because of those can be a detriment to yourself once you grow past a certain degree. And I know that that has been true for me because I've had to release these different aspects of this self-sabotage at the different levels that I've reached in my life thus far. And every time that I've come to a place where I've had to identify and let go, it's always been a tough road. So I don't take this topic lightly. And like I said before in maybe like the last episode, but I have a plethora of topics that I could go over or just do more research in to inspire more questions. But this topic stood out to me when I asked for guidance. And I'm going to continue to talk genuinely. So in regards of self-sabotage, I wanted to dive into the question of how can we really work through the phases of identification to see modification in our actions and hopefully generate different results within our interactions and relationships. And this topic is tough because in identification, it really depends on who we're talking to. I know for me, it can be true that I'll have in my head the way in which I need to go throughout my day. And then I'll have this voice that will describe the reactions and responses that they would derive to be appropriate based on their emotions or feelings towards somebody's actions. And I can always reason with it. But when I know it's starting to affect me in a negative way is when I feel my energy within my body start being depleted and exhausted in a way of just entertaining the thoughts that they are conveying. And I feel it internally draining me to where it can almost feel as if I'm diving into a depression. And it's hard to save myself once I get past a certain degree in allowing those thoughts to make me feel uneasy. And in trying to inspect and rationalize how the concept of identification to prevent getting to that point of just a thought overload and overwhelming feeling, I realized I had to, kind of take a step in understanding, okay, well, for one, what was the action that triggered the moment of feeling some form of negative thought within that present moment? And when I go back to the root causes, it's always one, what's happening in the present, and two, how that present moment is linked to a past experience. And when that connection is made, the voice kind of makes a little bit more sense as to where it's coming from and why it's responding in that manner and in that dialect, in that way, with its type of intention. And there's always this moment, it's super brief, but it's that moment where your thought, you can feel it translating to your bodily actions and expressions. And it's like a hesitation before you actually do or respond in any way. And it always, that self-sabotage always says the exact thing of what we would want to do without thinking. And what we would do from the mindset of just protecting ourselves with no care for anyone else. And what I realized is it can come from a genuine place, especially if you don't have a representation of someone or something that has contradicted it so consistently to where you can actually believe it to not be true to you and what you're trying to do. But there's that moment with or without the example of what you're looking for it to be. There's this moment where you know in your mind, okay, maybe I'm not trying to do this. Or you see a glimpse of what it would look like if you didn't respond in that manner and tried, something else to convey what you mean, but in a different way. And you can always tell because there's one that takes the most energy, and then there's the one that feels awkward and uncomfortable, but it's the slightest tweak or difference. Not really much in effort at all, but it just makes you peel back a layer of your vulnerability that you have to decide whether or not you want someone else to be privy to that. And that's where the yes or no comes from, where it's like, oh, I know I could respond like this, but I don't know if I trust this person or this situation in that way to reveal that within me, or to explore the possibility. And because of that, I'm going to stick to the response that heightens my energy and feeds me in what I feel to be true for the emotion that is coming across within me internally. And honestly, it's something that you can sit with all your life, and you don't ever have to shake it, and you can be fine with it. But what I have known to be true for myself is the fact that those downs can take me so low to where I forget how to recognize the highs in my everyday life. And I don't want that type of energy to be consistent within me, which is why I try to fight the thoughts that immediately cross when those feelings of self-sabotage come, because I know what I theorize to be true isn't necessarily always fact, because it takes another person to clarify that. And if I'm not in a space where I'm welcoming that clarification, then that's more telling about my predicament and situation, because at the end of the day, I should always be able to have a discussion or to articulate how I'm interpreting something, and be able to receive it from somebody and disseminate that information back to them in the way that they can understand and how it's affecting me. But it really takes patience and time, because you never know the types of individuals you're colliding with or getting introduced to until that situation comes where you're forced to. And then it's revealing on what type of energy you see. Because for me, I'll do something to where it can be so slight to somebody else, but to me, like, this makes no sense at all. Like, why would you do that? And a self-sabotaging moment within me can be just like, you know what? I'm not going to say nothing at all. I'm just going to take what I feel, hold it in, let it fester, and just keep moving what I'm doing. But at the same time, by choosing to do that, it's compounding over time with other feelings of transgressions that I have, until somebody picks the right day and time to poke at something that they had no business poking at, or was poking at something from their triggers and traumas or experiences that they've had without knowing how it would affect me. And now I'm blowing up on everybody. You know what I'm saying? And I know when I get to a stage at that degree, it's like there's no stopping me. And what I say or do can be liable to destroy somebody. Not in like a cocky or like cynical way, but just like the words you say do have weight, and the actions most definitely, whether somebody literally admits it on the surface level or not. Everything that you say and do can impact somebody. It just matters how that person chooses to convey that transgression to you. And I want to make sure that in any transgressions that I feel, I'm making sure that I'm holding myself accountable and doing the things that I know I need to do for me so that I can approach any situation that is thrown at me sanely without having to feel grace not placed upon me by my own self to get through the challenges, to get through the misconceptions, to get through the different energies that I feel from the people around me. And sometimes when I'm not taking care of myself at the most appropriate level, it can affect me. And that's why I know when going through self-sabotage, like it has to be that anchored reminder of, am I really going to let these elements bring me down to this level and stay here? Because for me, it's a no. And the situations that challenge me to break out of those self-sabotaging ways are super triggering. But I found that from the identification of knowing, hey, this is what this moment feels like before I commit any thoughts or words or actions to respond in any way possible. But now that I've identified this voice, I have to figure out for myself, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to succumb to the emotions and the actions because of that it is conveying for me to do? Or am I going to go with this little voice that is going to take less energy from me, but makes me feel super uncomfortable because I feel like somebody is successfully taking something else away from me? Or am I just going to keep holding it in and then letting the sadness that it evokes on me internally keep weighing me down consistently? And I fight for the option to make sure that I'm addressing what I'm feeling correctly so that nothing else has to weigh on me, regardless of what somebody else responds like. Because it's not about them. I have to live with my own entity at the end of the day. And if I can't live with myself, then how can I say or be a person that is trying to represent a safe haven or a safe environment for somebody else? And these are things that you always know to be true for years, but like in the moment that you feel the emotions where you just want to respond, it can be instantaneously released from that vision to where you're just in that moment feeling those things, and it's just like, I'm justified to be here, so I can stay here for as long as I want. But you don't really have that choice Because if you choose that, then it affects every other aspect of your growth and could potentially cut you off from something that you didn't know that you had. And now the situations around you have to realign so that you can still do what you're supposed to on this earth. And it's taken me years to understand how to correctly convey what I'm feeling, because every situation you're in that causes self-sabotaging moments, it always goes back to what type of context you have. And I've mentioned this before, but it's true. What is your mind state like going into the situation? What was already being carried by you and what was added on because of what you are now within in the situation? And I've been in many where some people would deem my actions to be self-sabotaging, but if you ask me, I look at it as a search for alignment, because whenever I meet people, I'm looking at the souls of the individual. That's how I try to make sure I'm aligning with where God wants me to be appropriately. There are always the people that I'm drawn to, but who am I actually supposed to be around? And one, for how long? And two, for what purpose? Because that helps me understand, okay, well, what areas in which do I need to be aware of that are either about to grow some more or get stronger because of this encounter? And that's why I try to be upright with myself about moments where I can see and sense self-sabotaging happen, because some actions you have to take, but some of them you can avoid if they're really not something that you're supposed to be doing. Like, there's going to be some stuff that may seem like self-sabotage at a surface level, but really it's God being like, yeah, I need you to do this. It just don't make sense to nobody else but you. But there are those real self-sabotaging moments where it's like, here's a situation that is bothering you. God is telling you to do this, or your guidance is telling you to do this, but you're going to do this instead because this is how you feel. And doing this makes you uncomfortable. Doing this is right up your alley. You've had success here before, but was it really a success, or just did it make you feel comfortable enough so you could move on in your life and still be able to carry on with the relationships that are most intimate to you? So, I mean, looking at self-sabotage, it's opened up a lot of revealing things, and yeah, they can be deemed as true, but my whole thing is growth, and I don't want that to be the version of myself that lives for longer than it's really meant to. Because I know the growing that I'm doing, it's meant to catapult me into new rooms. And as I've learned before, when you ask for growth and it's presented to you, there are aspects of how you used to deal with situations that will not fit in that new room. And the people in those new rooms will not tolerate that version of yourself, and they will be direct with it. And they will say either adapt this or you can talk to somebody else. And it doesn't matter if you're looking at it from a relationship, from a professional stance, personal situations, it don't matter. It can all be connected and have ways in which they can be applied to make a situation realized. So that's what I'm trying to do. In regards of applying the philosophy of chilling to the aspects of self-sabotage, it's really within the accountability, talking to yourself and identifying, okay, what's really triggering me. And I know this might sound like a broken record because I've said some of these same points before, but it's really that it's not simple, but it's those real steps that have to be done in order to actually see something within you. And I say that to say the philosophy of chilling, the chilling part is not within the taking the steps. The chilling part is in how you digest it. Like, okay, like, taking this step it hurts, but it's something that I must do and that I'm okay with. And if I'm not okay with it, then I have to deal with it. And I have to deal with the consequences. And even taking the consequences, I gotta be cool with that too, because I chose this is what I'm gonna do. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, if nothing else, to get through it, you gotta be clear on where you're going to. And I may not always know every detail. I may not know every aspect of every play of what is happening in the scene of the ultimate vision of what is going on for my life or where it's going to. But I know to get through the self-sabotage that I've experienced, it's about making sure that I'm clear on the intentionality of my vision. And after everything I've been through, I think I know what's true. So what's true for you? I'm your host. Don't let the connect. We gotta go.